Слава Україні!
In this Delta History exclusive, witness the unbelievable true story of how just two lone American M1A2 Abrams tanks thundered into a battlefield drenched in fire and fear, standing defiantly against an entire Russian brigade in a remote Ukrainian village. Outnumbered, outgunned, and isolated, yet refusing to retreat, they unleashed a shocking chain of destruction, brilliant tactics, and raw courage that will leave you questioning everything you know about modern warfare. This is not fiction. This is war, and you're watching it, only on Delta History. The sun never truly rises on this battlefield. Only muted shades of gray hang over the ruined village of Velika Komishuvaka, a ghost town deep in eastern Ukraine. Buildings lie in shattered heaps, windows are blown out, and smoke drifts through broken streets like phantoms of a life long gone. It was here, amid the wreckage of war, that Ukrainian command realized they were on the brink of collapse. Russian forces had punched through a strategic flank. Their objective was clear: sweep through a cluster of small villages, establish forward operating bases, and cut off key supply lines to Kharkiv. And what stood in their way? Nothing, except a desperate gamble. A small Ukrainian recon unit was pinned down and nearly overrun. They needed a lifeline, but it wasn't infantry, it wasn't artillery, and it wasn't drones. It was something else entirely. Two M1A2 Abrams tanks, recently transferred and manned by an elite Ukrainian-American armored crew. A suicide mission? Maybe, but at that moment, there was no other choice. To understand what happened next, you need to understand what the Abrams is. The M1A2 Abrams is more than just a tank. It is a fortress on treads, nearly 70 tons of composite armor reinforced with depleted uranium and chobham plating, designed to survive modern anti-tank guided missiles and heavy cannon fire. Armed with a 120mm smoothbore gun, capable of destroying enemy armor from over 2 kilometers away, and equipped with advanced fire control systems, thermal sights, and a gas turbine engine that gives it surprising speed and agility. It is a beast in every sense of the word. But this wasn't an American crew. These were Ukrainian tankers, trained in secret, operating under NATO advisors, fluent in Abrams systems. Their call signs: Hunter 1 and Ghost Lead. And they were about to make history. Meanwhile, an entire Russian motorized rifle brigade was on the move. More than 3,000 troops, dozens of BMP-2 and BTR-82A armored vehicles, supported by T-72B3 tanks, artillery battalions, and electronic warfare teams. Their morale was high. Intelligence suggested the sector was empty. Their mission? Capture the village, establish fire bases, and secure the area within 6 hours. They weren't expecting resistance. They weren't expecting tanks. And they certainly weren't expecting what was waiting in the smoke. It began with a single shot, silent, precise, devastating. Ghost-led, hidden behind a collapsed grain silo, fired the first round. A Russian BTR exploded in a fiery blast, scattering infantry in all directions. Moments later, Hunter 1 repositioned and fired. A sabot round pierced a T-72's hull, detonating its ammo and lifting its turret off the chassis. Panic set in. The Russian advance halted instantly. Confusion spread. From above, drones spotted smoke and wreckage, but couldn't make sense of what was happening. Russian commanders believed they had entered a coordinated ambush, but they were wrong. It wasn't an ambush, it was just 2 tanks. Using guerrilla tactics, Ukrainian scouts relayed target positions. The Abrams tanks would fire, reverse, reposition, then strike again. The crews knew the village intimately. They weren't trying to win, only to buy time. And they did. In response, Russia deployed 4 T-72B3 tanks into the village ruins. On paper, they had the advantage, but thermal optics allowed the Abrams crews to see through smoke and dust. Advanced targeting gave them first-shot kills. From nearly 1,800 meters, Hunter 1 struck the lead Russian tank's ammo rack, destroying it instantly. The other T-72s panicked. Some reversed, others fired wildly. Within the hour, 5 Russian vehicles had been reduced to flaming metal. The Abrams tanks were untouched. But time was running out. Fuel was low. Ammunition was dwindling. Desperate, Russian commanders ordered grad salvos and 152mm artillery to rain down on the village. The Abrams tanks disappeared into alleyways and ruined structures, narrowly avoiding destruction. Electronic warfare scrambled Ukrainian communications. Drones lost signal. Yet, the crews persisted, switching to encrypted backups and even using hand signals. Russian sappers planted anti-tank mines and tried to flank the tanks, but were eliminated by Ukrainian FPV drones before they could attack. By hour 3, both tanks were battered. Armor was scraped. One had a damaged tread. The crews were exhausted, awake for over 30 hours. Exhaust fumes filled the air, but they kept moving. They fired, they reversed, they repositioned, they survived. Outside, Ukrainian infantry began regrouping. Reinforcements were inbound. The Abrams had bought precious time. In frustration, the Russian brigade sent everything. Over 40 armored vehicles flooded the village ruins, attempting to encircle the tanks. But Ghost-led made a bold move, driving through a collapsed warehouse and bursting into a courtyard from behind enemy lines. 2 BMPs exploded before they could react. Hunter 1 followed, providing cover. In mere minutes, 5 more Russian vehicles were destroyed. The 2 tanks struck like ghosts, appearing, hitting, then vanishing again. Suddenly, a Bayraktar TB2 drone reconnected with headquarters. Within minutes, HIMARS strikes and loitering munitions pounded Russian staging areas just outside the village. Trapped between relentless tank fire and precision artillery, the Russian brigade broke. What was supposed to be a 6-hour operation turned into a 12-hour disaster. When the dust settled, the numbers were undeniable. 28 Russian vehicles destroyed, hundreds of enemy casualties, and both Abrams tanks still standing. Under cover of darkness, they were extracted, scarred but operational. Military analysts hailed the defense as one of the most effective modern armored delay tactics in recent history, not because of overwhelming numbers, but because of raw skill, grit, and strategic brilliance. Today, both tank crews are legends within the Ukrainian armored corps. The Abrams they drove into hell are still in service, patched, repainted, and marked with the kills of that day. The war rages on, but their story echoes across the front. It's a story of 2 machines, 2 crews, and 1 impossible stand. A stand that will be studied for generations. You've just witnessed a battlefield legend where 2 machines, driven by unwavering resolve, changed the course of a war zone. This is Delta history, where modern war meets raw truth. Subscribe now for more real war stories the world tries to forget, but history will never let die.